So we played the first thing that came to our heads, and it just so happened to be the best song in the world. The best song in the world. And then we tried to just throw on the first mods that came to our head, and it was awful. It was just abysmal. I wish modding was as easy as spontaneous song. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails. We're going to talk about 9 characters. You may be modding poorly. We're going to try to move through this as quick as we can, folks, because I'm trying to respect your time and stuff. But some of these kits do require a little bit of explanation of why you want certain things the way you want them. And keep in mind that if there's any repeats, then a lot of it has to do with, like, I write down the characters that people ask me about the most over the course of time, and then every month or month and a half, whatever, I put out a video like this to specifically address specific characters. So just so you're aware of what exactly we're trying to do, folks. Sometimes there's repeats because things change or because people want a better explanation. So if you want timestamps, I'm not going to do them myself. You guys can, if someone wants to do that, I will totally give you the credit and pin your stuff, and then I'll eventually add that to the actual video description so you guys can click through. But that's going to have to be crowdsourced because I'm not going to do it because I don't have time tonight. I apologize-ish. That being said, let's talk about Wampa first, folks. Wampa has the new Omicron in GAC, so people want to know how you're supposed to mod him. There's a couple different schools of thought. So first off, you need to have enough starting tenacity. So he gains a lot of tenacity. Every time he gets hit, he gains more tenacity. So eventually he's going to stop getting any extra debuffs on him unless there's tenacity down, in which case you're sorry out of luck. You can't gain enough tenacity to actually outdo tenacity down. At least, I mean, theoretically maybe you could, but it's not practical. So the thing is, there are a few teams that he's going to excel against, including the Iden troopers. That's is pretty good, but he needs to survive long enough to actually use his awesome abilities against them. And what happens is with him, it'll totally work against Imperial troopers with Iden in the lead, unless they stun him right away. And her first move is a stun move, and he doesn't have enough tenacity to block her entirely if the Iden team has a bunch of potency. So what'll happen is, even though he eventually ramps up to have a ton of tenacity, the initial stun is enough to kill him because they all get an extra turn, and that's enough to just drag him to the pit. So what's happening with him is he needs starting tenacity, even though he doesn't use it. Again, he uses it as a shield, and then he just discards it. He doesn't even need it. But that being said, if you're not planning on going against Iden, or something that can initially debuff you that actually requires a tenacity check, then you probably want something different. If you want to do tenacity, you probably want to be somewhere around 170%. You maybe don't need all of that, but the thing is, with tenacity, you need to go all in, or not at all. So you could maybe do that. It looks like the mechanics of it looks like he gains tenacity before the stun check is actually attempted by Iden, in which case you could maybe make him about 30% tenacity less, but I haven't seen definitive proof either way. I don't know I'm sure there's been testing, but it's very difficult to test because it's just GAC and people are unreliable, and this beast is pretty cool. Otherwise, guys, if you don't want that starting tenacity, if you're not worried about it, then I would actually advise health. In fact, like all health sets and everything, and you want him to be somewhere over 100k health if possible, guys. I mean, I know that mine's relic 8, but everything's tenacity. You want health because health actually boosts his protection up button or whatever. That's pretty cool. So some offense is good, but he's ramping up his offense with Furious Foe all the time with his Omicron, and he doesn't ramp up his health, he does ramp up his damage. So I think the other thing that you could maybe pay a little attention to is giving him some extra potency just so he can land all of his debuffs, you know, his healing immunity, his daze, all of that stuff is pretty nice to be able to apply. So that's the furry beast, folks. All right, we've got Boba Fett here, and you can see I have an embarrassing set. It's not all 6E, even though he's part of the best fleet in the game right now. All 6E is nice. He's not one of the starters, so you can kind of get away with that. But, I mean, Boba's got a lot going on here, though, folks. So he does a lot of good damage with his execute. But, I mean, in a lot of ways, he's more of a facilitator. And so, like the death from above, keep in mind with this AoE, it gives ability block. Sure, people remember that. But what happens is, if you target someone, so he's got that bounty hunter's resolve, so that means he can ignore taunt, which is nice. You can target anyone, and whoever you target, it also puts damage over, so inflictability block on the selected target for 2 turns. So he's just keeping someone from doing stuff for an extended period of time. So pick that person who you're afraid of their ability. You're like, man, that could really mess me up. I really want to mess them up. I'm going to be vindictive about it and just apply the ability block. So therefore, you really want to be able to apply those debuffs. And so I like to put potency on him. Yeah, I mean, like, damage is probably his biggest thing. But so check it out. I put a crit damage triangle here. It just so happened to be the best potency rolling ever on this crit damage triangle. Like, sure, you could try for secondary offense, but I mean, the speed is nice, the potency. This is a pretty nice triangle, guys. You know, health is great for him, whatever. Health or protection is probably fine. And then, honestly, if you can just get, I mean, you can see he's not the biggest priority character, so like all the secondaries, like, sure, okay, I found one with some potency, that's great. The other ones don't really have potency, but, you know, try to get his potency up as much as you can, like 81%, that's decent. You can apply that to the majority of characters when you use it and stuff, and then get him some speed, of course, you know, some speed secondaries, but crit damage is fine for him. Offense is probably also fine, but crit damage is something he can make special use of and stuff. Jedi Anakin's one that is a big question mark for a lot of people. So under the Qui-Gon Jinn Omi, you might be better served if you want to just, you know, just keep him permanently with Qui-Gon Jinn in GAC. You could probably put a speed set on him, but that's kind of awkward. You don't, like, because all of his damage in Qui-Gon Jinn is based off of his speed. Well, I mean, not all of it. It's augmented by his speed. But otherwise, people ask me all the time, why do I have crit damage on him? Why don't I have offense? And the answer is, he makes good use of crit damage. It's not that offense isn't better. Offense is probably fine. It probably does some good stuff. And frankly, if he's facing a lot of really good characters who aren't going to get crit a lot, like, crit damage does less, because it's like, well, if you're not doing any crit damage, then those mods are just, they're pretty worthless, in fact. So, you know, why do I have crit damage? It's because I have a lot of crit damage mods, and those crit damage mods just happen to, you know, they're pretty fast. They're fast enough anyways. I think he has an offense arrow. I hope we did that. Yeah, offense arrow. So, you know, this is pretty quick. He's at 286 before any of the cool upgrades from Qui-Gon or Cam or whatever, but here's the thing, guys. He does physical damage. He has a pretty high crit chance. Of course, this is Relic 8, so he's going to have less otherwise, but the crit chance is good. That means he's going to typically, and especially a lot of the leaders, are going to hand out things like crit chance up, or they're just going to have something in their kit that gives them extra stuff. But he does extra damage, obviously, when he does crits, and so that's what I do. I could do crit chance and crit damage. You could put him with offense. People ask me this all the damn time, and I'm like, you know what? How many crit damage arrows do you have that are offense and have this level of speed? And then, like, potency is something that he kind of wants, or crit chance is great. And at that point, you may as well just make the whole set crit damage. It's not really... you know, some purists might get mad at me for saying, like, like offense and crit damage is interchangeable. It kind of just is, though, a lot of times. Like, certain characters do very much specifically want offense, or they want crit damage way bad, like way worse than any of the other ones, because it's like, well, if you're never gonna crit because you don't have high enough crit chance, then sure, like, why would you put crit damage stuff on him? But Anakin's one of those characters who's versatile enough. You can do both, and he's a good place to put crit damage stuff. And I mean, the same goes with Boba. That there's vanishingly rare number of characters who want crit damage sets specifically. So Anakin and Boba are actually both great locations for your really fast, really awesome mods there. Han Solo's another one. Gosh, I didn't realize I was doing this. Like, he's another one. You want him to be fast, and you want him to have a lot of crit damage. The crit damage is actually pretty big of a deal. So, I mean, here's one thing that you realize once you get to relic, I don't know, higher relics, you realize that you have an excess of crit chance, even if they have a ton of crit avoidance to mitigate it, because you know his shoots first, he gets plus 20% critical chance. You know, that's fine. Otherwise, you know, he gives himself crit damage up. But let's see, all allies gain crit chance up, so he gains that as well. And then okay, so he gains turn meter equal to Han's crit chance. So that means if you can gain 100% turn meter if you have a lot of crit chance on him. And so I have 105 already before he gets anything from his leader and before he gets anything from his shoots first one that we were just looking at. Which, hold on, we gotta pause it, guys. Alright, BlueStacks crashed while we're in the middle of a video. That's fun. But it's funny that I chose another character that wants crit damage, but he does. He wants crit chance and then all the crit damage and everything. He does a lot of cool stuff here. Yeah, so we can, but here's the thing. He does a lot of cool effects as well. Things that require a potency check in order to make happen. And so, like, if their target has less than, hold on. Well, if it has less than whatever turn meter, you deal more damage. But if they have more than 50% turn meter, you actually remove turn meter. So if they have 85% turn meter, then you can actually potentially reduce their turn meter all the way. It's pretty, well, almost all the way. They have 85, and you reduce one of them to 50%, then you reduce the other, and then they're at 15% turn meter. So, but that's the thing. So it can't be evaded, but it can be resisted. So, not to mention this also will stun people, and so this is important stuff, folks. So you don't need crit chance on them. Once you hit a certain relic level, you don't need it, even if they have a high crit avoid. So instead, you want these other things. And you can see that it's all pretty quick. You want potency and crit damage, folks. Crit damage everywhere that you can get, potency everywhere else you can get. This is a mod I should probably start boosting a little bit, actually, because potency offense and even percent defense isn't just the most awful thing. So why in the world do I have him with such fast mods, you may ask? And the answer is, you really want him to go first. I mean, he is going to shoot first, but the other piece of it is that's a bonus turn, and then all other turns are based off of what his potential, what his speed is compared to everyone else's. So if he's under a Commander Luke team or whatever he is doing, he's going to benefit from being fast. So you put the arrow on him. He does less damage, sure, but he's going to get more turns, and that'll turn into more damage. And frankly, it's really nice to be able to go, if you're doing the mirror match, which is a relatively rare thing though, but if you have a faster Han than your opponent, then you can stun Chewie with him, and things get better. Next, we have Kyle Katarn, who does not want crit damage. You do want some potency, however, guys. So, I mean, he does a lot of different effects that you really like. So, he inflicts ability block with his basic. At least when it's his turn, he does. And then, otherwise, he's got this cool thing where, so this actually just does extra damage. Sorry, this one is the one that dispels all debuffs on all rebel fighter allies. This is really nice, but they gain all these buffs and everything. But then he also puts force influence on at least one character, and so it means that they can't assist, they can't counterattack or gain buffs, and all of that's like really nice stuff, really nice effects that you could really use the heck out of. And in addition to that, folks, he's also gaining that extra turn meter. So you want him to be fast enough to outspeed the enemy team. here's the thing, though. There's a limiting factor to this team that I didn't really mention in my in my faction essentials for this character in the squad. But what happens is he's gonna go at like, so my speed is what? 287. If it's at 280 exactly, because he gains bonus turn meter, 30% bonus turn meter, that will turn him into 400 speed, and that's great. The thing is, in order to bridge with POW, you actually have to have POW at a pretty fast speed. Like POW's gaining what, like 25 or 30% turn meter, and that's fine. But if Kyle Katarn's operating at 400% or 400 speed, and POW doesn't have any artificial or any substantial way to gain speed other than to just give him a lot of speed on his mods, like there's no kit things, there's no like bonus turn meter or whatever, then POW really struggles to bridge to him. So it's like, okay, Kyle Katarn went first, the whole squad's going first, and then POW's like, sorry guys, I'm not fast enough. So if you're gonna have Kyle Katarn super duper fast, you're gonna have to start putting some pretty ruinous speeds on POW to be able to bridge to go from Kyle Katarn to, hand the turn to POW, and then if they either of them proc that Hothrable Soldier or Hothrable Scouts 20 or 40% chance to give everyone turn meter, then you're just good and you'll have a unbroken loop forever, basically. But otherwise, you want him to be fast. You don't need him to be super fast. You just want him to do a lot of damage. So you want, so what I did, and there's a couple different things you can look at, but I did get his potency up to 75%, and so that means I have a potency cross on him currently. Otherwise, you can put an offense triangle. You could put a crit damage if you wanted to. I like the offense, though, especially because it shares out with the rest of the squad, and it makes them all do more damage. And then I put the arrow here. Now, granted, all of my mods, all of the mods that I'm using for him, I should say, plus 23 speed on an arrow, on an offense arrow, that's pretty decent. I put a lot of really good fast mods on him. And at the end of the day, you want him to be pretty quick so that he can go before people, but right around 280 speed is probably as much as you can practically use, unless you're interested in making your POW like 320 speed, which I don't think many people are that interested in it. Some people are, though. So potency, the other piece of it, guys, if you wanted to instead, because of all the stat share with Mon Mothma teams, you can also get his tenacity super high instead, and that's what I did originally, was I put a tenacity set on him so that he can contribute to the whole group of not being able to be debuffed, because everyone shares all their tenacity, but you need to have tenacity pervasively on the entire squad. I like this setup right here, though, guys. Some potency, and then as much offense as you can find, and speed up to a certain point. So that's it for the first 5 here, folks. Let's go as quick as we can here to this. So Quel wants to be fast because he gives his whole team a bunch of turn meter. So, I mean, and this is probably, like, a lot of people are going to look at this, are going to be like, that's an unrealistic amount of speed. And I tend to agree. However, if you're facing, the kind of people I'm facing in GAC, you really won't need every ounce of speed. And so what happens is, when he takes his first turn, he gives all of his buddies an additional 25% turn meter. So that means that he'll go right before Bando goes, and Bando will go into his stance, and then everyone will then do their AoEs, give him whistling birds. He'll shove the whistling birds up the people's butts, and you're good to go. The other thing you want to think about Quel, though, folks, and this is something that I kind of glossed over when I was doing my faction essentials for this squad, but what you want to keep in mind is, so your squad's going to be predominantly Scoundrel, and so they're all going to gain 40% of his max health, offense, potency, and they gain it of his protection as well until he's defeated. So the protection goes away when he's dead, but the other ones, they all just gain all these stats. And so actually, this is one of the best ways to actually get your Bando more damage. So I have him Relic 6. I'm gonna get him a Relic 7 Blurg at some point, guys. I also really want to make it so that BAM team could eventually have Han and Chewie in there and put and manipulate his stats so that Bando's the one who's getting guard. Seems a little bit cool, but that being said, just give him some speed, give him some health, and move right along. One thing I will point out, though, because he also passes offense out, I also just randomly came across this plus 25 speed cross with offense, and I was like, you know what? It has the set that I wanted on Quel anyways. Let's just throw him in. Let's just throw it on him because I want the offense anyways. So, you know, eventually I'll have to add a lot of health and protection in order to manipulate the situation so that Bando gets the gets the guard, but until then. All right, Omegas, here's something that you overlook about Omega. There's a lot of things that you overlook about her. So I know that everyone's favorite joke in the whole world is high single fire damage, and I'm not gonna like even address that. It's sure, she does some damage. She doesn't do a ton of damage. She's you know, what she does do is she pervasively shoots, she assists every single time that someone goes. And so, you know, while she has stealth, she has all this stuff. When another Bad Batch ally uses a special ability, Omega assists, dealing 60% less damage. So she's assisting. She's also, every time she shoots, she's also doing damage to the people that you're facing, based off of Echo's ability to do percent health damage. Based off of their ability to, based off of your ability to debuff. And so, here's the thing, guys. The thing that I didn't notice for a long time is she actually, she does some damage. It's true. You need to mod her for that. But she also, on her basic, so she's going to be assisting a lot, and on her basic, she also inflicts. So she has evasion up, but she inflicts blind and daze for one turn. And if she's assisting every time, because Bad Batch can kind of loop their specials because of translation and all of that stuff, then she's going to be able to, she's going to be going a lot. Like basically every turn. She's kind of like our Bad Batch's version of B1. But what happens is she inflicts evasion up and blind and she has evasion up, but then she inflicts blind and daze on people. So you can actually, she starts with really low potency, guys, but if you boost her potency, and then she gets another 50% from Hunter, and then she can probably, from every stack of translation, I think she gets a little bit more, I forget if that's the case, but if you give her a lot of potency, she's going to be able to start inflicting all these cool debuffs that kind of, like, a lot of people don't apply them that much because they don't realize that she has this ability to assist all the freaking time and then apply all this stuff. And so therefore, like, she's doing extra damage based off of those debuffs anyways because of Echo and everything. And then she's also applying debuffs that you want. It's not just damage, it's also debuffs. So, you know, eventually I'll get the potency cross upgraded and everything, but for now, that's what she's all about. Dash Rendar is a guy who I want. I mean, we're all gonna have to gear him up for the Outrider anyways, but he's, you know, and for Star Killer unlock, but he's a good dude to get really, really fast. So he gets plus 20 speed on top of this if he's the leader, so 386 speed, which is gonna be tough for a lot of people to jump in and be able to take down, especially if, you know, like they need something to get a word in edgewise, but you know, we're not talking about specifically countering him. The thing about him is he really wants crit chance, guys. It is very important to him. So first off, so prepared ally scores a critical hit, so that includes himself because he's at the start. All prepared allies gain 2% turn meter. That doesn't sound like a whole lot until you look at his seeker missiles, in which case you realize that in 5v5 it does damage 3 times to everyone. That's 15 different instances of it. That means that 2% for each of those, everyone's gaining 30% turn meter off of his initial shot, and he's super fast, so he's probably just going to get that quite a bit. So that's super nice. The thing is, he needs to be able to crit in order for that to happen, and so you want him fast and you want him crit chanced. And so this is what my modding looks like for him. So we have crit chance on the triangle as the primary, and then crit chance set, and then, of course, as much speed as you want. Like, so he does a lot of damage. Ideally, he would have a plus 28 speed offense cross instead. Instead, we have a plus 28 health, and that's fine. Speed is probably more important, but, you know, that it would be nice to have offense on him. But you want him fast first, and then you want crit chance to be able to facilitate all of his other guys taking a lot of turns. And so, I mean, that's basically it. You just want him fast. And, I mean, this is an unreasonable amount of speed, frankly, guys. I'm not trying to rub it in. You also eventually are going to want him to be 6E mods on everything, if you don't already, because of the Outrider. And in addition to that, you probably want some relic levels, because he does do a lot of damage. The leader, I mean, he hands all this cool stuff out. The prepared and everything. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Vander Chewie, speaking of a prepared character, people are always like, man, his protections, he's such a tank, he's so beefy. Here's the thing. Okay, so health and protection, this looks okay. You know, I'm Relic 5, whatever. I have some okay modding on them and everything, but keep in mind, this number has in no way reflects the final numbers. So you have to look at the beast ability. So Chewbacca has 40% less max protection. So 40% less of whatever this protection is. It's not, he has some protection, but, whatever, he has 60% of that left. But in addition to that, he also gains 80% more max health. So the max health is nice, 80% max health. I mean, it just makes him really tanky. And really, that's basically it. You just want him to be modded with a lot of health. I just wanted to point out, guys, because people say all the time, like, they count how much protection, count how much health. They're like, oh yeah, he's got like 120k, hit points, effective hit points between the protection and health. And I'm like, well, you didn't take into account his unique. It's not that big of a deal, but something to be thinking about. Anyways, folks, that's it. Let me know what I got wrong. Gosh, these modding videos always take so long. And I really did legitimately try to go fast. So let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. Would love to hear. I'm not the sole arbiter of truth. Well, I don't love to hear that, but I know I'm not the sole arbiter of truth. I want to hear what you guys think. You guys have taught me a ton about how to mod. I want to know more about your perspective and why. So give good feedback, guys. And, help me mount the algorithm too. If you like the video, thumbs up and all of that, comments. We're mounting the algorithm and we need your help. So guys, thank you all so much for watching. And remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.